what's going on. Listen, please, everybody, take a moment. Hit that like. If you have not already hit the like button, please hit that like button for me. I would absolutely appreciate it. So please hit that like button for me. Please subscribe if you have not subscribed to the channel. I would appreciate that as well. Listen, man, we're not going to be here long. I always say, but we're not going to be here long tonight. We just got some quick stuff to talk about because y'all know, as well as I know, that Biden did a State of the Union last night. So just a quick 10 minutes on that. And then we're going to talk about some of the stuff that we got to talk about in terms of, claim the name ADOS and what we're doing there. Like I said, not a quick one tonight. We got kind of busy last night, if you want to Patreon, about some stuff that America absolutely, owes us, not just because of what we built, but because of like how we've allowed other people to live without even saying nothing. So, hey. And if for those of you who don't know, that's patreon.com/ycarnell if you want to do that as well. Now let's get down to the nitty and the gritty. If you shall will, do, shall will. Biden had a lot to say. And let me just say, in terms of just speeches, right? In terms of the State of the Union, in terms of just the speech itself, like, it was a good speech. Our 80-year-old, or however many hours Biden child, that was a good speech. He hit all the stuff. Inflation is down. We manufacturing. People without college degrees, the jobs, from the jobs report, you find a job. Like, there was nowhere I would say the climate, like, he hit all the highs and the lows. So I wouldn't say that, like, that was a bad speech. So if you want me to say that that's an awful speech, it's not a bad speech. Not a bad speech at all. I'm not saying that. And I've had I'm hard pressed. I really am hard pressed to find a president make a bad State of the Union address. You would have to go up in there and say, ooh, it's rough, and I'm having a hard time governing. The worst I probably heard was probably Bush up there, babbling or whatever. But it's hard to find a president just to say he did that. That right there was just awful. That's really hard to find. So it's not a lot to say that a president's State of the Union. That's just kind of a perfunctory thing we do. But I wanted to ask, I just wanted to point out one thing. I think one of the things that we have to learn politically is that it's up to us to define what the metric is. So what do you mean, Yvette? But what's the metric? I mean, a president can tell you, you're doing well. We've added this many jobs and the country is doing well, and black people are doing well or better. That has to be measured up against your metric and the metric that you define. Okay, Yvette, what you talking about? Well, let me show you something. I'll show you a couple things, right? From the speech. We got, this is the first ever with Hakeem Jeffries, and I want to congratulate the new leader of the House, Democrats, the first African-American minority leader in the history, Hakeem Jeffries. He won in spite of the fact that I campaigned for him. A little funny, jokey, right? Now, let's go on to the part that kind of impacts us, right? Well, folks, so let's look at the results. We're not finished yet by any stretch of the imagination, but unemployment rate is at 3.4%, a 50-year low, near record unemployment for black and Hispanic workers. We've already created, with your help, 800,000 good-paying manufacturing jobs, the fastest growth in 40 years. Now, the thing about politicians, and this is politicians in general, it always sounds so good. What? God doggone it. That sounds, Yvette, like we really, and you saw the thing, 500,000 jobs and all this, et cetera. Way more jobs than expected. We saw that. I'm not disagreeing with that, but that makes you think that something is necessarily changing in your life because according to Biden, you have this historic unemployment. So let me just bring up something, because this is what he's talking about. When you see a president talk about something, always go find out, well, what is he talking about? What is the metric? And it's usually up at whitehouse.gov. So this is whitehouse.gov. And we'll go from figure 4A on down, okay? Figure 4A, the unemployment rate in January was the lowest it has been since May 1969, they said, while the broadest measure of unemployment was a tick above its record low. Okay? Let's go down a little bit to the little thing at the bottom there. You see U3, U4, U6 here. You see what the blue represents here. You see what the black represents here. You see all the years that they go. Okay, that's what they're talking about. They're getting you excited. Now let's go to black workers specifically. As we're going to talk about towards the end of the show, you have to disaggregate that. But let's just go on. For black workers, the unemployment rate was 5.4%, near its record low of 5.3%. Data for black workers go back to 1972. The unemployment rate rose for both Hispanic, Latino, and Asian workers and ticked up for white workers. Okay, let's look at what it actually looks like. Here we go. Now, see, this is what I mean when I say, what is the metric? If you say, I think, here's my thing. If we're going to talk about what the metric looks like, the metric can't be measured against us. Like, we can't measure against ourselves. What are you talking about if we can't measure against ourselves? We got to measure black people against black people. No. Because the measure of whether we've been normalized in this society is measuring us against what is normal, which is white. And so if you measure us against white, you see blue, which is black. Blue, which is black, and black, which is white. Child, I don't like the way they set it up. But anyway, you see that, and you see that, okay, it's like a worse, better. I'm not saying better. I'm just saying you have to define. I'm saying we have to define what success looks like. That's what I'm saying. And we also have to define not only what success looks like in terms of our metric. Let me get this up here, fam, on the corner. But we also have to define what is the stickiness of success. Right? Let's say you got out there and we all had jobs. All Negroes had jobs. Like all God children need shoes. Let's say we all had jobs. What is the stickiness of that? How much does that matter if when it's time to lay off again, and it's time to lay off again right now, we're going to get to that about metrics and looking at the whole landscape of what's going on. But how much does that matter? If when it's time to lay off, we lose everything again. See, success has to be sticky. It has to be like that glue. You ever try to put something together with glue and it gets stuck everywhere, and then you go in there, you try to wash your hands and it just won't come off, and you're like, the next day you done bathe, your hands clammy and raw, and you still can't get the glue off. Success has to be that sticky. It can't just be, well, it was a lot of jobs, so a lot of Negroes got back in the workforce, which does prove that we work. So that trope should go away. When the jobs come available, even when they're not good paying jobs because of where we are, we work. But what is the stickiness of that work? And that stickiness is defined by two things. It's defined by wealth, and it's defined by protections in policy. The wealth is something that gives you social capital so you can navigate within that social capital, and you can withstand all kinds of storms that come your way because you have the wealth of your ancestors, you have inheritance. The stickiness is the policy that says, no, you don't get to discriminate in terms of who you fire or who you lay off, or black people are the canaries in the coal mine, and you know that America's about to catch a cold because black people just caught pneumonia. That's not funny, and that's not fair. So there has to be some type of stickiness in terms of policy protections that define that. It cannot just be defined by this number, right? And there also has to be some context with it, and we'll get to that context in just 1 second. Like I said, this ain't gotta be no long show today, child. We ain't gotta talk about this no long time. Friday's January jobs report showed that employers, this is why everybody's so excited, added 507,000 jobs during the month, blowing past a Dow Jones consensus estimate of 187,000. At the same time, the overall unemployment rate fell to 3.4%, the lowest since 1969. Right? So it was a good jobs report and way better than expected. and all that kind of stuff. So that's what Biden was talking about last night. Now he was talking about some other stuff. Unfortunately, he was talking about some other stuff. Let's just interject to talk about that. Then we're going back to this data and how we have to set our own metric. But you saw child Marjorie Taylor Greene. She acted up and started screaming. Now you remember when the other little man, the other congressman, started screaming doing Obama's thing, right? See, these people haven't been brought to heel. They act up and act out. Let me tell y'all, because she said the same thing. What she said? We're gonna get to that. That's the wrong clip, child. Let me show you something. Here's what she said. President Joe Biden attacked the GOP over the debt ceiling standoff before singling out some unnamed Republicans contending they are looking to slash and sunset Medicare and Social Security. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene jumped to her feet and yelled back, "Liar!" Now, if this sounds familiar, it's because it is familiar. It's because that's what happened, like I said, during Obama's tenure. And I just wanted to take a moment in the midst of our conversation about metrics and setting our own standards and metrics and the stickiness of everything to tell you that this is a flashpoint. Ladies and gentlemen, there are flashpoints in this life where you can see something is kind of going down the toilet. When you have standards that are constantly being violated, you know something is not quite right. That's what's happening here. Right? First it happened with Obama and everybody's like, well, it was racist, but he was black. That's the white America. I don't know what y'all got going on. But remember that. Right? See, when you have these kinds of things that don't conform to decorum and everybody starts violating decorum, everybody has decided that they don't respect. They don't respect the right that they're supposed to let the emperor not have no clothes on there. Eventually somebody's going to come to fisticuffs. And we've had that before. If y'all go and look it up, that's a bad sign that people are not respecting the dictates, right? We done had January 6th. Now this is twice in the last, 2009 or whenever this happened with Obama. This is like twice in like the last less than 15 years that we have had this kind of outlandishly kind of monkeyish thing happening during the President's State of the Union. It's not supposed to happen. That's one of the things that they're supposed to come together and respect. That's the thing that gives people an idea of the country and the respect for the country, a place that we can all come together, blah, 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 blah. That's what that's supposed to be. And white America, right-wing America keeps violating that. And that's a sign. Just like January 6th was a sign, just like you lie with Obama was a sign, that is a sign of bad things to come. So put a pin in that and you'll come back to that later on as well. Now, back to our business and not the thing that need to be brought to heel, back to our business. So we're talking about the metrics and this is what they talked about. This is the big deal. This is the big deal in the room, right? That's why Biden was so boastful and everything. I understand that. Now you always want to go look at your own metrics. You always want to go look at your own metrics. Let me bring this down a little bit so you can see. Like I said, we're not going to be here. Unemployment rate for black workers in the U.S. January 2019 to 2023, right? And you see that's the drop, right? That's the drop that they're talking about. So understand so you can understand what they're talking about. It goes 2019 to 2023. That's what they're referring to, however you like to call it. They're also probably putting stock in that the labor participation rate is higher, right? You see that first one is that you see men and you see women. I think labor force participation rates for black men and women in the U.S., right? And you see those have dropped precipitously in 2020. And then they tick back up. So it's always good to know what data people are talking about when they're having these conversations. Unemployment rate in general is 3.4%, but the thing about it is 5.7%. 5.4% is black. Still higher than Asian. Still higher than white. You only see it less than American Indian, Alaska Native, and Native Hawaiian, other Pacific Islander. I don't know what more than one race is, so I throw that whole category away. So that's too non-specific. So you still, that's what I mean. The metric ain't quite right. How you do this long? The metric has to be like, why aren't we normalized, and why are we always the same as white? And whether or not this remains that way. And then let's just go. We just gonna go through something. This is also the monthly change in employment, right? But let's go through something else really quickly. You also have to look at the landscape. So you take this as one thing. Okay, this is one indicator. Never look at just one indicator of what's going on in the economy. There are multiple indicators. So never just look at one. So multiple indicators, that means you gotta look at, if you say the economy is good, if you look at that, you say, well, the unemployment for us down to historic rates. We're doing good. We're with labor participation is good. We're doing good. Yvette, what's the problem? Well, we already saw Google and tech laying off. Remember, that was a story a month or so ago, right? Tech, everybody laying off. Now the story is, you see Dell to lay off 6,500. You see Zoom is going to lay off, is announcing layoffs, and their CEO will take a 98% pay cut. All right? Okay. I'm just saying there are other metrics in there, because people have been predicting a recession, saying we are already in a recession. I'm just saying there are other things to consider. You got to get a speech you give about it, but let's just consider all the context, okay? The other context is 57% of Americans can't afford a $1,000 emergency expense. This is a recent article. This was January the 25th of 2023. That doesn't look so good about what Americans have in terms of liquid, right? Disney to cut 7,000 jobs and slash $5.5 billion in costs as it unveils vast restructuring. NBC, MSNBC, God bless you. Employees plan to walk out in protest of layoffs. Well, Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo. Scoop. All I'm saying is our unemployment rate is still higher than white people, and that's our measure. Our measure is not Latinos, because they try to use that to put us in a situation where we measure up against people who might be new immigrants or people who immigrated to this country. That should not be the measure. Our measure should actually be, there should be some type of native measure, right? Where you measure yourself against people who've been in this country, how long they've been here, because that's the best indicator of how well you should be doing as a group. Not whether or not your group has melanin like another group, or in the Latino case, not even really melanin. It's because a lot of those are white Latinos. So it's not the greatest indicator for how we're doing in terms of who we measure against, right? I would even say you can't measure us against Native Americans because of their sovereignty. You have to measure us against, and when you put us, that's why I say what the metric is. When you put us right next to white people, when you put that 5.4 next to that 3.1, that's still abysmal. And that's the metric. It's not Hispanics. It's not anybody else. The metric is white America. And the metric is why, even when the economy adds these many jobs, why we're not equal or better. That's the metric. And that's why you always have to consider the metric and what metrics should be used, because any president and every president is going to tell you that you're doing great under their administration. Ain't no president ever going to tell you you're going to do anything less than great under their administration. So that's my take on the State of the Union. Quick, easy, and to the point. Now, let's talk about one other thing. Quickly. Y'all know it's been a long road with ADOS, right? It's been a long road with all this stuff. Love it, though. But listen. I think what we're doing in terms of the White House Office of Management and Budget kind of speaks to the need for some type of organizational heft and some type of hierarchy, right? And if for those of you all who have not, please absolutely take some time out of your day and your life and all that stuff to go to joinados.com and join us in that venture. You all know we've been doing this for years. Flat blackness and the need to unmask everything we do. The need to unmask our failure and not kind of cobble that together with groups that don't have the same lineage and same background. Our 2019 conference was called Claim the Name. Claim the Name. And now we've come to that. The next conference was Rise and Organize, right? So we now are rising and organizing to claim the name. So please make sure to help us in that effort, and actually, you know, if you support what we're doing, sign up for a training as well, because what we're trying to do is what we said we're going to do, and you need that advocacy, and we're training you to be able to do what you need to do in terms of advocating the federal government. Every time you do so, the federal government says we have a comment period, and we have to know how to comment, and it goes beyond what we're doing. This is integral to what we're doing, but it goes beyond what we're doing, right? So I wanted to make that absolutely clear, and I just want to bring somebody sent this article to me, and I wanted to use this article to make it absolutely clear, in hindsight, how right we were. Like, in hindsight, how right ADOS HQ was. When people was like, you don't have to do that. You don't need no organization. You don't need this. You don't got to do that. And everybody should be allowed to just do what they want. Well, this is an interesting article. It kind of goes to why that doesn't work. The snitch in the silver hearse. What? The snitch in the silver hearse? The FBI paid a violent felon to infiltrate Denver's racial justice movement. See, well, let me just go through it. Let me just go through a couple quotes, and we'll get back to it. Because I want to handle two things at one time. I want to handle a little bit of Biden and speak a little bit out of it. But I want to handle. I added this late in the game, but I just want to say a little bit about this. He was a punchy 5'7" with a ruddy complexion who wore military fatigues with patches on the sleeves. By activist standards, he was an old-timer pushing 50 as he swaggered through crowds of teens and 20-something protesters, a cigar clamped to his lips. Something out of a movie, don't it? It does sound like something out of a movie. I didn't know much about him, but he drove a hearse, said Zeb Hall, a black activist in Denver. In this hearse, there were a lot of guns, AR-15s, and all kinds of ish. Right? The driver of the hearse filled with guns was Michael Adam Windecker II. He went by the nickname Mickey and boasted of having been a soldier for the French Foreign Legion and the Peshmerga, the Kurdish fighting force known most recently for battling the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria. He claimed to have traveled to those battlefields and trained anti-fascist activists there in weapons, hand-to-hand combat, and explosives. He was just this baddish dude talking about how he worked in a federal military, in a foreign military, and how he was for the Black Lives Matter movement, Hall remembered. Now remember, the Black Lives Matter movement didn't have any kind of anybody vetting any of this stuff or anything. It was just all for one for all, like they're a bunch of pirates or something, right? Listen. I'm just saying what it was. I don't mean no disrespect. Trey Quinn, a muscular black activist with a beard and large frame glasses, led some Denver protests. One night after Quinn had addressed a group of demonstrators, several young activists introduced him to Windecker. And these are young people, by the way. You have to think about that too. Hey, this guy's really, really dope. He's legit. He knows his ish. Quinn remembered being told by the fresh-faced activist, you should let him sit in, and he could probably help you out, Windecker. Windecker was really pushy, Quinn told me, trying to put himself in the forefront. Now, I want to come out of that for just 1 second. You have to be really, really careful, family. Let me just say this. You have to be really, really careful with people that come out of nowhere and decide that they want to push themselves to the forefront. They said he was really pushy and he came in here and decided to push himself to the forefront. That sounds like people who come in here and decide that they just want to lead. And all of a sudden I'm leading stuff and all of a sudden I have a new name for stuff and all of a sudden you just want to lead. You come out of nowhere and you're in leadership. Voila. It's a rabbit out of the Negro hat trick, ain't it? Ain't nobody suspicious? Don't nobody wonder what's going on? Okay, well, let's continue with Mr. Windecker, if you shall. Bryce Shelby, another black activist, remembers seeing Windecker walking around the protest. He had a GoPro camera strapped to his chest, which Shelby initially thought was suspicious. He de-escalated any type of suspicion because he would start flashing his prison badge, Shelby said. So yeah, okay, he's not a Fed. But Shelby and many other activists in Denver were wrong about the man behind the wheel of the silver hearse. I think anybody's suspicious driving a silver hearse. Where'd you get that thing from? How'd you afford it, Mr. Windecker? And why would you want to drive it? Windecker was a Fed. The FBI paid him tens of thousands of dollars to infiltrate and spy on racial justice groups during the summer of 2020. Windecker wouldn't tell me much either. After I left a note at his apartment south of Denver explaining that I wanted to interview him about his work for the FBI, he called me. I do not work for the FBI, he said. I never worked for the FBI. If you got proof of me working for the FBI, then I'll say otherwise. But there's no proof because I didn't work for them. I explained that I had FBI reports and recordings to the contrary. I don't talk to the press. I don't talk to politicians. I don't talk to the police. Windecker told me before hanging up. He had a nice little spiel, but I don't talk to none of y'all. While on FBI payroll, Windecker became an organizer of Denver's racial justice demonstrations and ultimately undermined the social movement, gaining momentum there by deploying the same controversial tactics the FBI used to devastating effect against black political groups during the civil rights movement. It is August 28, 2020 at approximately 4:02 p.m. Dahlstrom said into the FBI recorder before handing it to Windecker. The video is part of more than a dozen hours of FBI recordings I obtained documenting Windecker's work in investigating racial justice activists. Dahlstrom asked Windecker if he remembered his tasking orders, which involved enticing a black racial justice activist into committing a felony. Yep, I got it, Windecker said. Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Dad. Now, here's the interesting part, family. Pay attention to this part. Trey Quinn, the black activist leading protests in Denver, was among the first to suspect that Windecker might be an informant. Quinn devised a way to test Windecker. Speaking in hypotheticals, he asked him about burning down a neighborhood. Could we get it done? And he was like, oh yeah, I got the right guy for the job, Quinn said. This is how he's talking. Let me come out here for 1 second, fam. Let me come out here for 1 second. Hold on. Because I want to show you something. You know, he said we could get the job done. We could burn down this whatever. I want to pause right there just for one reason. People who tell you get it popping in the street and we gotta take it to the whatever, you gotta just pause, right? Because you have to pause on you have to listen. I understand the impulse because you never know who you're dealing with. There's no way to be ADOS in America and not understand certain impulses, right? But you have to understand whether a certain impulse is productive or non-productive. And a lot of times people will do that. This guy was trying to entice people into committing a crime, right? Racial justice activists. There are other situations where nobody is trying to entice you into commit a crime. People are trying to entice you into ineffectiveness. Sometimes people are trying to entice you to get you locked up, and so that Fox News can come in and put a camera to you, or these right-wing reporters and say, "Oh my God, you see what they're doing? They're terrorists." That's sometimes what they're trying to do is mess this stuff up just enough that nothing ever gets done. So you get so confused and so frustrated. You say, "I'm not going to do nothing. I'm not going to do no activism. I'm not voting. I'm not doing nothing." You're right. I'm angry. And people who get you angry and don't give you anywhere to put your anger, anything productive to do with your anger, are not your friends. Those are your enemies. People are always running to the front to grab the microphone. Hey, it's me. Why are you here? What are you doing? People who you see all the time, but you don't ever see them. One of the things I talk about all the time, what do I talk about, fam? Even in terms of how the little I've spoken about the foundation, I always talk about what succession planning. You should be planning and building somebody else to take over. People who just talk about themselves all the time and what they do and who they are. Watch them people. It's all about you. It's all about the collective, but the movement is about you. It's all about you. Oh, you don't want us to do anything. You don't want us to vote. You don't want us to do activism. What we want. Your whole thing every year. I see this coming with a lot of more. It's not just what we had before. There are a lot of people coming down the pipe now saying, "Don't vote." Wait a minute. And not just don't vote, do not be active in the political process at all. So I'm not supposed to vote for dog catch. I'm not supposed to vote for my local. I'm not supposed to vote for nothing going on in my city. I'm not supposed to vote for ordinances. I'm not supposed to vote for nothing. I'm not supposed to go and advocate to have any more resources. So I can't go and say, "Hey," I can't go to the town hall meeting and say, "Hey, we need X, Y, and Z." You're not teaching me to do anything productive. Be very suspicious of people who just keep calling out the problem and telling you the solution is just to sit down and cross your feet and hope for the best. And that becomes some kind of empowerment. People are bastardizing the word empowerment. So this man did one thing, right? Allegedly. I'm telling you, there are a lot of ways to do what he did. And it's not just that thing where you get violent is one of them. And people who talk tough, I watch them close. Because some people really have a frustration and they really want the right thing. And so they're just frustrated and they believe in what they say. And you just have to kind of talk to them about, okay, what happens after that? Okay, you go do all this. What happened to the Panthers after they did all of that? Right? Like, who went and got them out of jail? I ain't seen nobody. Right? And you have those people. Now the people you can talk to and they be like, "Yeah, I know what you're saying. I'm tired though." And people don't, I get that. But there are some people who will just use your frustration and they will funnel your frustration. Right? Be very wary of people who will funnel your frustration into non-productive efforts and into their pocketbook. Just be very careful with that. Now let's finish this little man. He had a lot of stuff going on, this little man did. Windecker's enthusiastic response fulfilled Quinn's suspicions, but he didn't have proof. So he didn't warn other activists then. But Windecker, appearing to view Quinn as a threat to his cover, started telling activists that he suspected Quinn was working for the FBI. Mickey seemed super concerned that Trey was an informant, Hall said. Then I started getting concerns about it. Suddenly, Quinn found himself on the outside. His fellow activists stopped communicating with him as Quinn was being marginalized. Windecker encouraged protesters to become more militant and go on the offensive against police. So hold on a second. The guy who is the Fed is convincing people that the actual activist is the Fed. Now, I've seen that playbook before. The person who is communicating and taking orders from the FBI is telling everybody that the guy who is an activist and who is suspicious of him is the one who's actually taking orders from the FBI. Be very cautious of people who always talk about he's a Fed, he's an agent, he's a this, he's a that, he's a that. Hold on, everybody can't be an agent. The FBI ain't got them many agents in the racial justice movement. If you sitting around calling everything agent behavior, maybe the agent is you. Because you sit around and get everybody confused and bang dangled and they don't know whether the doggone scratch they watch or whine they butt. Maybe it's you. You just pour confusion. These agents of chaos and these agents of confusion, you gotta watch them. You got to watch them. Now I'll go to the last little quote before we wind up on this. Suddenly, Quinn found himself on the outside. Look how much the agent stuff worked. Well, I think he's an agent. Now you done got him on the outside because people questioning him. Well, maybe he is. His fellow activists stopped communicating with him. As Quinn was being marginalized, Windecker encouraged protests to become more militant and go on the offensive against the police. In late August 2020, Hall went to an apartment that served as a base for Windecker and the young allies he recruited. Inside, Hall saw a table covered with guns. I'm like, holy F, Hall recalled. You know, YouTube got a no cursing policy, y'all, so I can't even read stuff off of this thing. They done switched it up. Another activist who was with Hall in the apartment but asked not to be named because she fears retribution for speaking publicly, confirmed Hall's account. There were guns, weapons, medical supplies, literally looking like they're preparing for a genuine battle, she told me. That's all I'm gonna say. Listen, we did whether people know it or not, whether people understand it or not. All this stuff about you running around. See, the part of the reason that could happen with a lot of protests, especially like BLM protests, is because they came up with one thing we need to kill right now is this idea that we can have organizing without actual organizing. What I mean is without actual people and foundations where people are vetted and and people take responsibility for what happens. Or else you run around talking about who told him to do that. Everybody just calling themselves everything. There has to be some type of organizational framework. And I'll say the same thing I said a while ago, is that's why the military always has some type of organizational framework. The military has an organizational framework. It's because that's how you win wars. They don't just all run to the battlefield and say, "What we gonna go from here? What you thinking? He over there." I mean, no, but they don't do that. That's not how it works, right? So, I wanted to just kind of bring that out to show you the dangers of having these movements that are catch-alls where somebody just comes to you and people just put pressure on you and say, "Hey, you should talk to this person because I think he's cool because he was over there with them Persians and he smoked a cigar." That's not how we vet people. I'm so sorry. The man is cool and you think he's cool because he drive a hearse and he got all this stuff. Have you checked his background? Did he actually do any stuff he told you he did? Oh, y'all don't do background checks. Gotcha. All of that stuff is dangerous. All that stuff when you just bring everybody in and then all of a sudden they in the room and all of a sudden they talking with the leader and all of a sudden they ostracizing the leader, talking about he a fed. That stuff is dangerous. You don't do it that way. So everybody who said, "I don't know why Yvette just want to let us do what we want to do," because it's dangerous. It's not a me thing. It's just a danger thing. It's just a you get locked up thing. It's just a the movement dies thing. That's what it is. And I would rather do something slow and methodical any day of the week than to get involved in something very, very, very stupid that not only costs somebody their freedom or their reputation or their life, but that costs us the movement. That's not what I want. And I will hope that's not what anybody here wants. So I will hope when we look back in hindsight and everybody who just wanted to do their own thing. Listen, I understand enthusiasm, and some people are just enthusiastic. But enthusiasm has limits, right? And this is what this shows. They will get you, and you can say, because anybody can say, I work with BLM, because they talked to an activist who did whatever. You wanted to be say, was this person an official member of your chapter or not? Oh, y'all don't have official members? Y'all just do whatever? You just willy-nilly? Child, the FBI love it. Right? It's awful stuff. This is awful stuff they do out here. And you just got to do your best to guard against it. That's all this is. It's not about ego. It's not about wanting attention. It's about how do we build something that is where you make it as hard as you can to tear it down. That's it. That's it. I think if you look back, we're doing the best we can in terms of building the thing that needs to be built, because it needs to be built to withstand the stuff that's going to be sent our way, regardless of who's here. We can't have stuff no more that falls apart because Martin died or whoever. That can't happen no more. So you have to try to build with that in mind. Anyway, fam, I said I was going to end early today, and I'm doing that. I'm going to take a quick break just in case anybody wants to call in. But absolutely, you can absolutely do that. Give me a few minutes to set up the phones, and we will, if you are so inclined. But this was such an interesting little story. The little man was driving a hearse, and he was a Fed child. It's so interesting. And tell me what you think. If you want to call, tell me what you think about the Feds. Tell me, you remember the story of the little Asian man who was with the Panthers. Like, infiltration happens all the time at every level, don't it? You remember the little photographer who was with the civil rights movement, right? And we didn't find out until after he died. The Asian man, I can't remember where he was from, he committed suicide. But the cameraman who was with MLK and them, he just reported back. What was happening and what was going on or whatever. And, it's always so interesting because he was a cameraman. So he was always just in every room. You don't really pay attention to the cameraman. You have all kind of conversations in front of the cameraman. Ooh, wait a boy, this stuff works. It's so interesting. Anyway, fam, give me a few minutes. I'll be right back. are back. We are back. We are back. We are back. Let me go to. I'm going to 214 214. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hello, Yvette.
Hey.
Sharon Grant here, calling from Texas. We've spoken, but it's been some time, and I'm sorry I missed the front end. Just wanted to say I'm looking forward to the Claim the Name session. I think I'm signed up for next week.
Okay.
And just happy that you have taken the time. I gotta admit, back in 2019, I was chomping at the bit, wanted us to do more, but seeing how things have fallen in place. We're peaking, I think, at the right time, and I'm just looking forward to being able to contribute to strengthening the Claim the Name as we march full-throated with our back straight, because the wind is at our backs. And so I don't have a whole lot to say. I'm about to back up and see how you actually started. I'm seeing how you.
Oh, we State of the Union stuff.
State of the Union. I just want to say thank you for being steadfast. Thank you for being a strong leader. And we're peaking at the right time. So thank you so much, my sister. And I'm looking forward to what comes our way.
Oh, appreciate you, fam. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And listen, stuff don't be happening in our time. It happens how it happens. That's one thing I had to learn the hard way. Like, just, I remember reading this thing one time, and it was like this dude, he got fired. Well, they wanted to fire him because he was competing with this other company, and they were like, the other company's moving fast, and the other company's doing more. And at the end of the day, like, when everything was said and done, the dude's company was the better company. But it took years for him to, like, build out what he wanted to build out. And I just think, like, people and the people inside the org, shout out to all of them, they work volunteer. They don't get paid, right? So, I don't get paid. We don't get paid. Like, what y'all give me here is what I get paid, or Patreon. That's it. Like, we don't do that. So and we wouldn't even be at a level to do that anyway. Like, how long it takes when you can get paid from an org or foundation. You know how much you would have to have. And so it's always crazy to me when people run and they're like, time they run into looking for the monies. Ain't no monies. It's a passion project. Do you have passion or not? So appreciate it. And if you all haven't signed up for the training, you can absolutely go to you can absolutely go to adolphfoundation.org/claim the name as we do the serious advocacy. So I appreciate it. I am going now to 773. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Chicago.
What's going on?
Not much, man. Love you. Thank you for all that you do.
What's going on, fam? I know you regular.
Yeah. Day one. A1 from day one. Yvette.
What's up?
Infiltration is so real. And the worst type of rot is the rot that happens from the inside out.
Mm-hmm.
And man, I just want to thank you for your vigilance. We have to be vigilant.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be patient. Even though it seems like a long time, and just like you just said, nothing good ever happens without time taking place.
And when you look at it, fam, and I'm gonna let you finish up. But when you look at it, fam, it's just like when I think about it, like, right, that article I wrote about Obama not being African American because we didn't have the language for ADOS then. That article was like in 2010, 2011. It took to like 2016, 2017 for that to actually catch with people. So that's 6 years of that not catching, like of me saying, and people saying, what do you mean he's black just like us? You just hate him. About it was 6 years before people started to think about it, and it was probably 2017 before people actually was like, yeah, you know what, you're right. Like that was a 6 to 7 year span of nobody agreeing with that, right? So I think you have to plant seeds, yes, but you also have to give those seeds time to like blossom into flowers and stuff like that. You have to give that time. If you don't give it that time, then you just everything, if you look through the universe, everything, a baby comes to term in a certain amount of time, right? It's 9 months. Usually when if you're growing a tree, it takes an oak tree however long to grow into a big tree. Everything has a time frame. And so you can't go into it kind of expecting these kinds of immediate results. That's just, the universe teaches you that most of the time you're not going to have that kind of immediacy. But because of that, you appreciate it more when you do have it, because you know what you put into it. But go on, fam. I'm sorry.
Yep, and I agree with you 100%. And this is why J. Edgar Hoover stated that the greatest threat to the United States was a united black community. The problem is, like you said, we didn't have the language, but now we have the language. Now we have the type of language that allows us to disaggregate from everyone else and have the specificity that's needed in order to get this thing done. Mm-hmm. Because, like we've stated over the years since I've been a part of this ADOS movement, white people understand clearly that they don't owe everybody. They know exactly who they owe. And as long as they're able to keep confusion, or as long as we continue to stay confused about specificity and who we are, they know that they don't have to worry about anything that we're trying to do. Because it's always going to be someone willing to go for the bag and disrupt progress. But now when we have that at the forefront, volunteering, leading from out front, full-throated, let's appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate you, fam. I appreciate you, because you can't have no movement without people.
I'm sorry, what was that?
No, I said I appreciate you because you can't have a movement without people. Don't work.
Exactly. And I won't hold you up very long, but this was a very, very interesting show. And it definitely shows the need for vetting all across the United States for ADOS. From California to New York, from up to wherever we are in this world, according to the racial, in this country, according to the racial dot map, we need to be vetting the people that are going to be a part of this, because this is it. This is it. There isn't anything else. No one else is speaking specificity and for American descendants of slavery only, except for you and Tone. And I'm so thankful and grateful that you guys came up with this name, because I'm 60 years old and I have been looking for something all these years. One other thing, I tried to, I have trouble with the Zoom. I'm 60 years old. What? I signed up for yesterday's thing and forgot I live in Chicago and I live in the Central Time Zone and you are an hour ahead of me.
Oh,
so I signed up again for the 17th at 1 o'clock.
Okay. So, hey,
and I don't want to do it because, listen, man, this is all I have. I'm 60. I'm working my tail off. And I'm trying to have a retirement. I want to stop working one day. And I know how important this movement for reparations is. This is the last house on the block.
Hey, we gotta do what we gotta do. I'm gonna let you go, fam, but I agree with you. And get in that training. You know, we got some. You know, I'll be doing a couple. We got some. Jacory did the last one. We got people from all the teams who will be giving trainings. Right? We have I think 4 or 5 people from different teams, because we have policy teams, we have compliance teams, we have all kinds of teams. So we have different people from different. We have training teams. So we have different people from different teams who are giving or contributing to the trainings. So I look forward to it, fam, and set your clock for the right time, and we'll see you on the 17th.
All right.
All right, fam. You have a good one.
I'm gonna have my daughter set this Zoom up for me.
Yeah, no. All you gotta do is click on it. All you gotta do is click on it, and set it up, and you click on it, you in there. But have us standing by. All right, fam.
I got you. Love you back.
Love you back. Appreciate you. Sometimes that's when you had a kid. You had to have a kid standing by. 973. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Peace and blessings. My name is Muta Amin. I'm from Newark, New Jersey.
What's going on?
And I'm thankful for you guys having this platform and divulging direct information that wasn't previously known and how it affects us as a whole.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, I'm saddened by my state and my city. Newark, New Jersey is the largest populated city in the state of New Jersey. The Freedmen's flag flew in Newark, New Jersey first. And it seems like since that push from the 60s, everything has stopped. Especially when it comes to our progressive black folks. So while the rest of America is experiencing racism by the hands of white or other ethnicities, what happens in cities like Newark, New Jersey, that has a majority African American population inside politics, because it's a black city, 51%. What you have is our people that we send to these HBCUs and we send to go get these educations, they come back and they're armed against the actual community that they came from. So they don't come back to help. They come back to be gatekeepers and lord over the resources that are available to help. And
Absolutely.
When it comes to this reparations push, what'll happen is during Black History Month, or Martin Luther King's birthday, or on these special token holidays, you'll see a push. So, Juneteenth is going to come up shortly. They're going to be talking about reparations and stuff like that. But my thing is, being from a black city, 51% African American city, for me, it does. I don't know how California is at the forefront. I'm like, why? How is it that we aren't doing anything? I'm just concerned, and I'm looking for an outlet so that when we do events and things in the city, that we can have those things broadcasted to a greater population.
Well, fam, let me just say this. Not doing anything is better than doing the wrong thing. Like, across the country, I'm seeing a lot of wrong things, right? And so I think not doing anything is better than doing the wrong thing. I think a lot of people have gotten, kind of hype over different things, different agendas or whatever. And because of the need, like, to just move, it's kind of this thing. There's something that you should disabuse yourself of when you're a child. This need to just move around for the sake of moving around. You see kids do that because they're kids. And you be like, would you calm down? What's wrong with you? Candy? But like, they're kids. So I think patience is something that comes with adulthood, right? And I think there should be, an ability because we're coming and the chapters are coming. So, there's nothing wrong with, hey, you see what's wrong and you're taking note of what's wrong, and the right thing to do is coming. But it's okay to have to be patient with that.
Definitely understood. One thing I wanted to ask you and the rest of your audience is, currently under this housing crisis that we're experiencing across the country, Newark, New Jersey is getting hit very, very hard with out of town investors coming in purchasing. And what I've noticed is that we can't afford to live here, and as prices are rising across the country, we can't afford to live anywhere else either. And the eviction rate that was going on after the pandemic started, when they did the rent moratorium, they aren't able to catch up with these evictions because it's so many. What where do you see us as a people in regards to this housing crisis and understanding that we are extremely late and I don't see an end in sight.
Okay, fam, I'll answer it. I'll leave it there, but I'll answer you after the call. I'll answer the question. Thank you, fam. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
No problem. Love you, fam. Appreciate you. You know what? I know some activists have. So I don't want to feel like I am downing activists. Like I've seen it in Louisville, I've seen it in a few places. I absolutely have. But like there's also a certain kind of misunderstanding, or I don't know how to put it. Rental policy is also housing policy, right? So not everybody's going to own a home. Now we should be fighting for reparations and access to home ownership, access to fair appraisals, access to income in terms of our black agenda and reparations in terms of our sacred justice claim. But still, even then, a lot of people will be renters because, especially young people, especially people who fall on hard times, especially and now we have a lot of renters and we just don't have enough advocacy around renting. There are not enough protections for people who rent, right? And so you have to do the stuff for home ownership, but people who rent just get tossed out, and there is they come up with all kind of stuff depending on the housing or the company and say you can't do this and we can kick you out. And because the rules are so lax, especially in red states, but in a lot of places you can just do whatever you want to. So I don't think that we have done enough to see rental policy as a part of housing policy in terms of how we do agenda work. But that's a whole nother thing. But there's a lot that goes into it. But I agree, we getting priced out. People are like, oh, we don't do price control. We getting priced out everywhere. It's not just where you are, fam. People putting up all kind of videos. I don't have TikTok because of the Chinese. But people putting up all kind of videos everywhere talking about going to these little bitty matchboxes. And it's not just people just oh, that's just San Francisco. No, child, it's all these cities like these little. And this is what $3,000 a month looks like here. This is what $2,100. It's a lot. And there's no affordable housing, and we don't talk enough about affordable housing policy that impacts us, right? That helps us. We don't talk about. We should be having these kinds of conversations everywhere. You know, I don't have a problem with people having a Grammy conversation. I don't have a problem with people having a basketball conversation. The problem I have is that there are not enough political conversations. It's just not enough of them. And that there's not enough political knowledge. It's not enough of them. You can tell me about Beyonce's last 8 albums. You can tell me about how LeBron was able to score more. And you can have a debate with me until I'm pink in the face, which don't take a lot, about who is the best. You know, LeBron, Jordan, and the differences with Kobe. You studied the film. I just need you to bring some of that over here in terms of the stuff that impacts your life. So I'm going to my next call. I'm going to 843. 843, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Okay, hi sister, how you doing? My name is AKA son of a slave. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine, fam. What's going on? Uh-oh, you went out that time.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right, how you doing, sis?
I'm doing
it's
good.
So good to get in contact with you. Man, it's been a long time.
Okay.
Yeah, Barry White. They always talk about me. I'm out of South Carolina, and
Okay.
Of course, I'm in the plantation, and I'm so happy for you. You know, I thank God for you. You know, if people don't believe in God, sometimes things carry over, and God has put a hand on your movement, on this movement, on our movement.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only movement that is relevant. And that's what I've been trying to say, but I got to stay out those Twitter streets because
they rough.
They hold your words accountable.
They rough on them Twitter streets.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, yeah, they are terrible. But I'm so happy for you, and I'm glad that you're getting your accolades. They're giving you your flowers now because they don't understand, like you said, this is not about money. When you sign up for something like this, you see that. And what happens? You get shot. And everybody, you just like signing a death certificate. You have sacrificed yourself for all of us. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it, fam. I appreciate it, Barry White.
I
Thank you so much.
You know I ain't lying though. You know I'm not lying.
No, you're not lying. You're not lying. You're not lying. You telling the truth.
You know I'm telling the truth. So it's so serious.
Yeah.
And I missed so much of the show tonight, but a lot of times I think they get you doxxed because I don't get the notifications on time.
No, nobody really gets the notifications. Like, I mean, we gotta know something's going on, fam. Like, I have watched my numbers, and I will get up one morning and I'm at 10,000, and like by afternoon I'm at 7,000. How did my views back up? I ain't never seen that.
They going reverse time travel.
But what can you do? Because the way I look at it, even if I'm reaching 7,000
I want to say this though.
Go ahead.
I want to say this because I called in before and I told you was going to get allies from strange places. And what's going on right now, people are still trying to figure out how they can pull the money out of what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's true.
They've made, this is what they did. They made civil rights activism a payout. And everybody trying to get their money now. Yeah. They don't give a damn what really happened.
And some have gotten it. Like some, I'm not gonna mention no name. I don't want to slight nobody. I'm not doing it today. But some people, and we know, we know in terms of some people have gotten it. There are people going around right now getting humongous speaking fees off of this. And I always say this, like I say this all the time, and I try to drive it home. You will always get paid, to walk up to the line, right? You crossing that line, that's a whole different world. Like if you just want to talk about it and have a theoretical conversation about what ADOS should receive, you will always get that. Somebody will always have that come. They'll always invite you. They'll always invite you anytime you want to come, everywhere you want to go. But you're not going to get as many invites, nearly as many, if you say, hey, this is what we're owed and this is what we need to happen, and it should have happened yesterday, but it needs to happen right now. If you say that and you don't bring everybody else into your justice claim, because that's the thing too, you got to bring everybody else in and say it's all of us, it's all people of color, we all got taught wrong, we all don't know. When you do that, you can do that. But if you say no, this is a specific thing for this group, then you in trouble, you have a problem, and they don't want to do it. And you can mention reparations. Like, you can mention it and then never mention it again. Like I said, advocacy is a drumbeat. Advocacy is not. I said it one time in an article in the summer of 2021 or whenever. Just same thing Roland Martin said one time. I hold him accountable. I put it in an Essence article. I told him, this was years ago. I said you might as well wrote it on your wall with a marker. But go on, Phil. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to stop. But I want to say this if I get the time. You talk about specificity. I can't say the word right. I've been having a couple libations. But look, they want to say that, right? But look at this fight here, and you can go through history. When we have fought, we have changed the global dynamics of what we fought for. And if anybody think, as far as how we look, the hue of our skin, if anybody think in this world, as far as what they owe us and making a major needle point move, like they got the doomsday clock, I think that's about us, for real. I don't think that's about nuclear war. I think that's about us. Like, these Negroes they're getting out of hand.
They're going to cause all kind of problems.
They're going to blow up. I really believe that. But when it comes to this fight, if we didn't do it, the world didn't move. And they need to understand that.
Everybody asks for reparations.
If we don't get ours, they're not going to get theirs.
Yeah.
And that's as simple to it.
As simple as that.
Get in line, fall in place, because we're not saying you don't deserve it. You don't deserve it. We're saying, look, we are specific. We're specific in what we're talking about, and no one else can say they went through this. We are the ancestry of this tragedy. These old 10,000 million Hitlers running around America and doing what they did to us. And that's all I'm going to say.
I appreciate you, fam. Thank you. I appreciate you. Have a good one. And I'll say this, too. Love you back, fam. I'll say this, too. Like, I support everybody in their individual justice claim. We see everybody. There was not this energy around reparations, right? Until everybody's saying, I want mine, and I'm with it. Condemn, hey, you need to condemn who you need to condemn. And they all done stole and took all these countries that done came in and took all this stuff. I support it. I support y'all. These are all specific claims, though, but I support it. Go ahead. Listen, you deserve. Listen, they came in there and did the thing. People say invest in imperialism. No, I know. I support all the people in their fight against imperialism. Yes, I do. They deserve what they deserve. Go ahead at them, and we deserve what we deserve. Everybody should be supporting each other. I don't understand what the Pan-Africanists be talking about. Anyway, I'm going to 832. 832, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Oh, hey, this is Kevin calling from Houston.
Hey, Kevin.
I just wanted to clarify, the Asian guy that you were referring to that was an informant, his name is Richard Okoye.
Okay.
And then Ernest Winters is the photojournalist.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Informant. Yeah. It's anytime that in an organization that a person emphasizes, like, oh, we need to get armed and we need to do very provocative things, you always have to be mindful that that's federal talk, especially if they're asking you to do things that that can get you federal charges, like that's so that's one thing that I've noticed. We won't name the person that got in trouble. I think he had the NFAC or Not Effing Around Coalition. Mm-hmm. He kind of got into some legal trouble.
He's not only legal trouble. I think he's in jail for some years now. I think he's going to be there like 8 years or something now.
Yeah, and over something as silly as just mishandling a firearm. Mm-hmm. So it's always important, and it's always important that successful movements take time. I think there's a rush. People, they just see the moment. Like when the Civil Rights Acts got passed, and Martin Luther King's speeches. They see these moments and they think that political activism is quick. It's a fast job, but a lot of times it's slow. It can be a frustrating work. It's not very sexy. It's a lot of meeting people and networking and stuff like that, and meeting people where they are and bringing them onto our side, and that takes time.
And hold on one second, fam.
No
Hold on one second. Let me say this though. Like you said, that's not very sexy. You're right. Like the movement part is not sexy. Like the movement work is not sexy at all. But the sexy part is if we live at a place now where you can leave the movement work behind and just run to the camera all day long. Like if you don't gotta do the movement work and all you gotta do is run to the camera and you just gotta call network, try to get on TV, that's the sexy stuff. And nobody ever asked people, well, hold on, wait a minute, do you have some kind of movement behind you? Why do I just see you on TV all the time, but nothing else is happening, right? I just see you. So I think nobody, and I think I think part of the reason we have such a problem with movement work is because we've never seen real movement work in such a long time. So we don't really understand, just go on TV, and it's just like, no, like that's like when the people a lot of people that we saw who were on TV back in the day, they were a part of a movement on TV. They were representing people on TV. They weren't on TV just to talk about themselves and the next documentary or the next book or the next whatever. I'm not saying you can't write books, you can. We have a book club for a reason. But that was part of movement work. It wasn't part of just one person getting money work. And I think we've lost sight of that.
Yes. And, I'll have to put it out there. What's it called? Tariq Nasheed and his little guy that he helped run for public office, they thought that just by having a YouTube channel and, putting out documentaries that was enough to put their guy in office. And he got embarrassed at the polls. So it's not, it really does, there's a component, like you said, that there's the infotainment, like the books, the documentaries and stuff like that. But there's also the outreach. And that's one thing that I've always applauded about your movement at ADOS is that you guys actually meet real people, real communities, real actual voters, people that can move the pendulum forward, and you guys acknowledge that it takes time. Yep. Remember, and like you said, during the Obama administration, it was hard to get people onto the idea of ADOS, because we had to see Obama fail to realize why and why ADOS identity is important in politics and stuff like that. So
And it was the best. And it was the best
Sometimes
lesson.
the
Obama was the
moment-
best lesson for us. It was awful, but it was a great lesson. Like, okay, y'all told me to shut up. Now what you got? Like, so it was a great lesson. And you don't realize a lesson is a lesson when you're in the middle of it, right? So it was a great lesson for us. Okay, now let's do better.
Yeah. Like during the Obama administration, even myself, I had no idea what descendants of American slaves were like at all. Like I just thought, oh, we're all black. Barack Obama, he's our first black president. But then you're like, but then you scratch your head like, why is the first black president not supporting reparations during his time in office? Or he'll never talk about the effects of the Jim Crow and stuff like that. And when you think about lineage, you realize that he doesn't share that historical background that a lot of us have. Through our parents, our grandparents, he never had those same experiences. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have that history to draw on that can affect his worldview. Mm-hmm. That's what separates him from people like Jesse Jackson, and I don't care for him too much, but even Al Sharpton and other people like that, he doesn't have that same history to draw on. And that's why his presidency was really ineffective for Adolf.
Yep, absolutely. He wasn't anchored in it. Right, I remember Denzel doing a quote, and he was talking about culture. There was something like culture is not race, or he was trying to say lineage, but he didn't have the framework for it either. And he was like, "Listen, you can be black, but you don't know when I grow up." He was like, Sunday morning when you smell the hair burning or whatever, like you're getting your hair pressed, right? With that little hot iron on the stove back in the day, like that's how they did it. He was like, "That's a cultural thing. That's not just a black thing." And I think that we are now coming to understand that through lineage we are different in a multitude of ways. We're different in what we're built. We're different in who we are. We're our Black liberation movement is not the same or identical to anyone else's, and we're not trying to diminish anyone as we say that. We have come to understand our distinctions, and that's a beautiful thing.
That's all I gotta say.
Appreciate it, fam.
Great show.
Thank you, fam. I appreciate it. I know I mixed up a couple things today, but I had to. I'm going to go to my last call. This is my last call. I'm going to 561. What happened? Oh, 561. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
My name is Brother Carl. I'm calling from Palm Beach County, Florida. And my question was, you've been hearing about the governor and talking about the AP class and the African American history. But I was wondering, had we been reported that there's a Florida law that was passed in 1994 that stated that they must teach the history of African American and African American history before the political conflict and up until today, and it's a Florida law. And most of the time, they get us distracted by getting us to talk about AP classes in college, but the law that I'm talking about, it was supposed to cover all grade levels and all subject matter from first to K-12. And this is a Florida law that's been passed about 26 or 27 years ago. And because we are slow for it and we don't have the media contact to inform one another, we don't know some of the things that we've achieved and some of the things that we need to focus on that we are not focusing on. And when we talk about education, in the state of Florida, there are 67 counties, and out of the 67 counties, I reside in Palm Beach County, and we've been so-called taking pride in identifying the ADOS community in our reality and inserting ourselves in the state law and in the school district as it relates to the ADOS. At some juncture, Yvette, I wish you would, as it relates to public education and the movement of academia, reach out to Palm Beach County and as it relates to ADOS, because the school district here, they did the disaggregated data, and they came up with the information to be able to identify us as a specific group, because initially no one wanted to identify us, but because of the
influence of those in the community, we were able to be victorious and identify ADOS. And in their last equity study, they identified us, and they showed where there was a tremendous need, and they showed where we were located in the psychology of this word called black, because we discovered that when they say black, they could be talking about blacks, and we know that their whole earth is populated with blacks, but it wasn't identifying specifically our demise based upon our involvement here in the system of education here in the bounds of North America. And as we move forward, I'm praying sincerely, we got a piece, Yvette, right now our churches, because of their failure and because of the misdirection that was given to them, like us all of us was given that white Jesus, and some of us surrendered it and some of us are still holding on to it. But as we move forward, we got a piece where we can revive our churches as it relates to education, because these used to be, those of us that know the history of Black America, we know that the church used to always be a safe haven, regardless of whether it was Pentecost or whatever. You know what I mean? They were always a safe haven. And with us integrating, we lost that kind of cohesiveness, and we're in a very critical juncture right now, where that our family members are so spread out and they're so filled with filth as it relates to accepting everybody else's culture other than their own. Those of us who are fortunate enough to be blessed with a love for ourselves and a love for God and our Creator and our ancestors and all of that, I'm just hoping that we can help to guide ourselves back to righteousness. And my point in all of my conversation tonight, and Yvette, is that when you talk about education in the state of Florida, and you talk about DeSantis, because he's getting ready to be a viable candidate for president, and I'm in Palm Beach. This is where Trump, he lives about 2 miles away from me right now.
Get to your point.
And
get to your point.
All of them are right here. Huh?
I was like, get to your point for me. Like, I got to wrap it up.
Okay. Education, if it's going to be really talked about in America, y'all need to pay us a little bit of attention to what's happening in Palm Beach County.
All right, appreciate you. Thank you, fam. Thank you for your call. I appreciate you. And let me say one thing, fam. And this is no criticism of anybody, but and I hear what he's saying. We have to revise our church doctrine or whatever. You know, listen. This is one thing I want to change, if I can. Sometimes if you want to change something in the church or whatever, I need you to change it in your church, in your community, and come back and tell me how you did it, right? And say, Yvette, this is how, I disagree with my local. Remember Project Takeover, right? I have people who are still in Project Takeover who are in all kind of stuff, NAACP, all kind of stuff, swaying them in different ways locally. But that's what Project Takeover was about, and it's what it's still about. I need you to go in if you feel that something in your church needs to be revised. Don't tell me don't tell. And I'm not saying that he did this. I'm taking this outside of the caller. I'm saying everybody has to get very comfortable going into that church and saying, listen, I went into my church and I got them to revise the way that their interpretation of this chapter or this verse, or the way that's in whatever, and I use this to kind of talk to the reverend about doctrine and all this stuff, and then you can say, that's how I changed it. Like, I think sometimes there are certain things that you can do and influence in your sphere of your local church or whatever, that you can influence. And then you can take that back and we could use that as a tutorial about how to advocate in our own houses of worship and stuff like that. So sometimes that's what has to happen as well, right? It's each one teach one too. I don't stand to say I know everything, and I'm sure y'all don't either. So sometimes that's what has to happen. So I just wanted to make that point. And like I said, no shade to the gentleman who called in, but sometimes that's the way it's got to go. All right, Yvette, I did this, and guess what? It worked. And I'm like, oh shuck it, I get quack. You see? Anyway, fam, please make sure, I got the wrong mouse. Please make sure you absolutely hit that like button for me. Please make sure you subscribe. Please make sure you go to joinados.com. If you want to be a part, of one of our sessions of training, please make sure that you go to adosfoundation.org/claim the name and sign up for a training. Please make sure you do whatever you need to do, fam, to be a part of what we're doing. We're working to get the government to disaggregate this data and count us as our own specific ethnic group, which is what we've been fighting for since 2017-18. So please do that, fam. Good night. Finish your libations. Keep it easy breezy. Don't bother nobody, and don't let nobody bother you. And I will see you if you are on Patreon. I will see you tomorrow. If not, I will see you same time next week. All right. Bye, fam.